All right. As official as it can be, Mr. Carl Jensen, aka 1500 Days. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you for taking a chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, even Steven, or should I call you Stevie? I never know which one you go by these days.
Oh man, this is rough. This is I'm gonna cancel.
I don't blame you. It's over before it started.
Yeah, I just had a few questions for you today, just to get you know you a little bit better. Uh, if you haven't checked it out yet, on my website, I was able to interview 1500 Days. I interviewed him a long time ago, actually. Well, a long time ago in the internet days, but 2014, 2015, in the interview of sorts, because they're not real interviews. And then 1500 Days, aka Carl Jensen, was able to go ahead and update where he stands in his life today. I thought I'd just ask a couple other questions to get to know him a little bit better, and really a chance to dive into the mind of 1500 Days.
No, that sounds ominous and scary. Be careful what you ask.
Yeah, I'll use my I'll use my deep super voice to make it sound like really scary.
James Earl Jones, Darth Vader.
Exactly. Well, it can't be too serious. I have two Charlie, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger ducks in the background. So how serious can it really be? How scary?
Oh yeah, the Berkshire Ducks. All right.
Yep, absolutely. So I just wanted to ask, so not everyone is familiar with financial independence. So I wanted to ask you what financial independence is to you, and how would you define it, and how would you tell other people?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say is people have this view of financial independence, and it's mainly the two letters you hear after FI, and those are RE, which stands for retire early. So, when a lot of people think about financial independence or early retirement, they think about old people sitting on the beach playing shuffleboard. So, I'll say that first, I'll tell you what financial independence isn't, and it isn't that. It's working, but it's working at stuff that makes you happy, and it's working where the paycheck isn't necessarily money. I do make money, but that's not my main goal anymore. It's to do things that leave me feeling good at the end of the day. It's not working at all. For example, we own a trailer park, which takes a little bit of work, although not a whole ton. We just bought a co-working space in downtown Longmont, which I'll go to after this interview. So I'm working, but my paycheck is happiness and not money. And I think I completely got away from your question. You said, what was your question? What does fire mean to me?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm taking out the RE part of it, and just
Okay.
what is financial independence to you, and really what is it?
Yeah, so I'll try to come up with a better answer to that because I hijacked your question. Uh, it's about having options in life. It's about being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. So, and that's really it. There's not much more to it than that. And for some, it might be continuing to work. Just because you have all the money in the world doesn't mean you have to stop working your typical job. You can stay there if it makes you happy and you do it for free. By all means, stay there. But I would say if you offered people on the street $10 million to quit their job and never come back, I'll bet no matter how many of those would have professed to love their job before you made them that offer, I'll bet that 999 out of 1,000 would probably quit. Maybe 995, but yeah. So financial independence is having options. It's about the main thing is being able to make decisions in life without factoring in money. So would I stay at my job if I had infinite money? No, I wouldn't. And what would I do if I had it? So that's what it's all about, being able to live without having to worry about money.
Yeah, I really liked when you said my paycheck, I'm getting paid in happiness, which is an interesting concept, right? A lot of people like to cash their check or take that direct deposit, and now it's a different form of payment. It sounds like, which is an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, it's so nice. And I keep on going back to this, what financial independence isn't. It's not about not working because sitting on a couch all day watching TV would make me very unhappy. And you could do that now and then, but at the end of the day, humans like to work. I heard Jim Collins say something like work is at the heart of the human soul or something like that. We have
Pretty
to
deep, by the
accomplish something. Yeah, we're better at the end of the day if we feel like we've improved the world or improved ourselves or done something positive. And sitting around all day doing nothing is a recipe for unhappiness.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Hopefully that gives a little bit more of an answer and gets people thinking about financial independence in a different way. Because yeah, the mainstream media in general, they're gonna slice it and dice it different ways and present it to us how really that gets the most eyeballs, right? And with that, that actually kind of leads into my next question for you. I've seen you personally on such websites as Mr. Money Mustache, New York Times, I believe Good Morning America. We even had some video and some pictures, if I remember right. I've seen you in some pretty big places. How did all that happen, and how did it affect you? And yeah, did you like it? Did you like the way they sliced and diced it, as I mentioned before? How they represented?
You know what? I never watched my own interviews, so I've never seen any of those. I was on Nightline a couple years ago, and let's back up a second. So the first thing I ever did was Nightline, and that was 3 years ago. And my neighbor happens to be Mr. Money Mustache, Pete here in Longmont. So he's like, "Do you want to be on Nightline with me?" I'm like, that sounds terrifying. But because it was terrifying, that's why I wanted to do it. I wanted to try to not be terrified of it anymore. So to get out of my comfort zone and do something that made me deeply uncomfortable. And if you Googled and watched it, I did a horrible job. So
I can't wait to rewatch this.
yeah. Post a link to that too. I think I was a little bit smoother on the Good Morning America and I guess the New York Times. There was no video, but yeah, the whole thing was getting out of my comfort zone, and that's the main reason I did it. And now that I'm comfortable with it, I'm not going to do much of them anymore. If I feel it can help someone, I will do it, but I'm not sure how much these appearances help anyone. They seem to get people really pissed off, or it's a cheerleading opportunity for the fire people. You also asked how these opportunities came about, and I've never really asked. I know the Good Morning America one came about because of the New York Times, but I don't know how the New York Times one came about. So
yeah, maybe a little bit of a domino effect with, one person saw you and
yeah,
you kind of went from there.
yeah, I guess so. I think it's more fun to have a little bit of secrecy around it. I don't know if I want to know, but that's probably ridiculous. My goal with blogging and writing about all this has never been to be some big media person or have some huge blog. It's just to amuse myself. And I stand by that 6 years later. Wow, 6 years, man. Time goes by fast. Shit.
Yeah. I'm also trying to figure out, like, in blogging years, does that make you like 66? So are you actually retired since you've been blogging for 66 years? Did we just times it by 11?
I think blog years are at least twice what dog years are. So if dog years are 7 years, 1 year, and real life is like 14 years blogging. Did I get that backwards? So anyway, 6 times 14 is 84. So I'm like a super old person in blog years.
Yeah, good thing we live longer now. Otherwise, they probably would have let your website go. Just let it go.
I know.
But yeah, so you mentioned a little bit when I first asked the initial question on what you're doing now, and kind of, Carl, you're all over the place. Trailer park, co-working space. I feel like I read about you traveling in 16 different directions in 2018. Can you tell me a little bit more about those, and either how they came about, or how they, how they've impacted your life, or what's going on with them? Just whatever information you want to share with us, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what? I guess I'll start out with the trailer park. And before I say that, I will say that I don't think there's any crime to make money in early retirement. And I enjoy making money. Although I don't have much to do with it, I still like the challenge of it. It's fun to evaluate a deal. So a friend came to us and asked if we wanted to buy a trailer park in Maine with a third partner. And we were pretty confident that these other two individuals had run the numbers and done their work. So we're like, sure. So it doesn't. And the other thing is, I don't want anything to complicate my life. So when I look at deals, these are hands off. I'm not actually swinging hammers or even managing any part of the trailer park. I'm more of a money person. So we bought that. Let's see, that would have been January of 2018, and that's up in Maine. We bought a co-working space 2 months ago, and again, it consumes a little bit more of my time than the trailer park, and that I'm actively working on it. I give tours, I introduce new members, I go and clog the toilets if someone flushes a small animal down the loo. But it makes me happy because with a co-working space, we've got a great community there. So we have real estate meetups, entrepreneur meetups. We're going to have a group meditation one soon. So while it is a little bit of work, there's much more happiness than work, and the happiness far outweighs the work involved with it. Plus, the work is enjoyable. And the other thing is that thing makes money too. So I think I got way off from your original question. Oh, you asked about travel too. No. Yeah, so life is just very eclectic. We do what makes us happy at the moment. And we do have 2 children, so most of the year we're stuck here in Longmont. But with Summer Cubs, we have traveled more. We're trying to dial that back a little bit because the way we traveled was somewhat unfulfilling. It was very rushed, and slow travel is much better than the kind of travel that most people think of. So when we do travel, we're trying to stay in one place for a long period of time, and we're trying to make the travel about meeting friends that just happen to be in a cool place instead of going to some place. I don't know if that makes any sense. So it's more about community. Like we'll go to LA to visit the Waffles on Wednesday people and hang out with them, and they just happen to live in a cool place. Or we'll go to Vermont to see the Frugal Woods. So
and Frugal Stock, right?
Yeah, Frugal Woodstock. Yeah,
Frugal Woodstock.
Maybe that'll actually happen someday. But so the travel is built around people who just happen to be in a cool place. So it's not so much travel; it's more about people.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm a little bit trying to do that in my own life, but it's something that I keep reading really with people who, like, yes, they want travel in their life, but they end up realizing that they move a little bit too quickly when they go through some of the travel. And then shortly after that, they kind of say, okay, they're either going to slow down or they're going to do it differently than I think they originally thought. It's kind of, a little bit of trial and error. So it's nice to kind of hear someone kind of going through the same thing. It sounds like a common theme.
Yeah, I will say it's a lot more fulfilling. Instead of, for example, spending a week at Disney World and running around like crazy, it's much more fulfilling to go to a town and stay there for 3 weeks and just sit there and maybe read a book for one day. Just immerse yourself in the place. It sounds so cliche and stupid, but I'll say it anyway. Live like a local. Just
okay.
walk around the town and don't go crazy. I think that kind of travel is much more fulfilling. And we're still waiting for you to come out to Colorado, even, Steven.
Yes, I'll say yes. I need to. It's every once in a while those flights pop up that are going to Denver, and it's like, man, like maybe I just stop over a little bit. They're cheap enough. We can go.
Yeah, I keep on forgetting you're in Florida now, so it's a lot more difficult than coming from Chicago. Both of our old kind of stomping grounds.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit. Well, you mentioned the word crazy. So that's going to be my segue to marriage.
Oh.
But no, so I read in your blog a little bit that when you reach financial independence, that there was some rough patches in your marriage, or at least something that you needed to figure out and talk more about. Can you share some of either the details or kind of how that occurred and how you figured things out?
Yeah, I will say that. And before I say that, I want to make a different point, actually, which is will be much more useful to most people. And that is financial independence isn't going to solve most of your problems. So the thing I thought is, as soon as I leave my job, it's going to be so good. I'm going to be so much happier. And then I left my job, and while I did have less stress in my life, it really didn't make that much difference to my baseline happiness. Life was pretty much the same. So if you have issues now and you think financial independence is going to solve them, that's not the right way to think about it. You should be working on that right now. Work on your happiness every day. Don't think that leaving your job is going to solve all your problems. It will make your life better, but it might not do what you think it will for your happiness. With me, I heard someone say this, and I think it was J.D. Roth. He said, if you want to find out who you really are, quit your job. And I saw that after I left, because I was a more pure version of myself. If you don't have to work for 40 hours a week, you have a lot more mental bandwidth to think about life, to contemplate, to think about your own existence. And so what happened to me was stuff I was previously okay with, because it was buried under all the stress of my job and time, these things that I didn't have time to think about, all of a sudden came to the surface because I did have time to think about. So I had to work on some stuff with my wife. In some ways, we're very different people. More minimalist than she has. I don't like clutter in my life. I like things done a certain way, and she's more carefree. But when I had a job, I didn't really have time to consider any of this stuff. I'm just, whatever. I don't care if we didn't do the dishes tonight. But then after I left, I found I was unhappy with this stuff. And so it did lead to some friction. But I think in the end, I know in the end it led to a better place, because we finally dealt with all these things that had been under the covers, or we had just been ignoring all this time. So we went through a little bit of a rough patch, but we're in a better place now. But I could see how financial independence might split people up too. And I'm thinking about, there's been a high profile divorce recently, Mr. Money Mustache. And I know with him, there's no anger, that there's no bitterness. They just evolved away from each other. And I don't know the details. I don't claim to know anything about the details of what broke them up, but maybe if he would have had a job, maybe they would have stayed together. I kind of doubt that, but people evolve, and your goal should be to be pure to your personality, to be pure to yourself, and financial independence will definitely help you achieve that for better. I think it's all for better, actually, because you got to live true to yourself. So I went off on a huge tangent there again, but financial independence will make you a better person, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned the marriage, and I couldn't help but think, when almost thinking of it, when you work out or when you go to lift, when you first go to like lift that weight, it might be really tough, or it might be more difficult, or it might be too heavy, or your form isn't right. But and that's maybe after financial independence. That's a little bit what that initial, the marriage was, where you're starting to uncover that, hey, you know what, there are some things that I need to get better at as a couple. And then after that initial, really, you get used to each other again. Now you're living in kind of that different life together. Things do start to get better. You do get a little stronger, and you are able to lift that weight the right way. I don't know if that's the perfect analogy, because I just literally came up with it, but that's what I thought of. Is really just strengthening your marriage. So I started thinking of it as strengthening. How, again, lifting weights as an example, and working out.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. You set a new baseline for yourself, and a better one, and you just have to evolve with it and find a way to grow with it. So in the case of strength training, you'll become stronger and get your form right. In the case of a marriage, hopefully you'll communicate better and work through your issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So apparently I used the term crazy. Now we're going to use the term doomsday. So
I'm done.
So I don't really know what doomsday is, but if it happens, and I say, if, let's say the stock market is cut in half, if I know that your wife is currently working at a job that she really loves, but if she says, you know what, I'm done, I'm out of here, and then this co-working thing all shut down tomorrow, doomsday happens. What happens to 1500 days? What happens to everything that you do? What changes? What gets better? What gets worse? Lots of questions, but what happens?
Yeah, I think of that. So I call that worst case scenario thinking, which I think is valuable to think about, because if you can account for the worst case scenario in life, right, you can make it through everything. And so right now is by far the riskiest time in my whole life. It's not 2 decades from now. It's right now. And the reason for that is because I have 2 kids. I want them to go to the same school. I want them to live in the same neighborhood. So if the world went to hell right now, we'd be stuck here, and we'd have to come up with another plan. And that plan would be, I'd try to go back to work. And I say try, but I don't think it would be that difficult. I could get back into computers, but if that didn't work, I could get a job at Home Depot or something and make my finances work. And why that would work is, I always say there's two F's to this doomsday scenario, and that's flexibility. So by flexibility, I mean I can go back to work, or I'm willing to go back to work. And the other one is frugality. So let's see, I was looking at our expenses for last month, and we live pretty rich. I drink fancy beer. We went out to eat. We took some friends out to a nice meal, and with a mortgage of $1,400, we spent $3,500. So that's about $40,000 a year in spending. If the world really went to hell, I could get a silly job at Home Depot making $20,000 a year, bring my 4% rule down to half, and sit it out and wait it out. But going back to my earlier point, I say this is the most riskiest time, because if we didn't have kids and the whole world went to crap, I would just pull up roots here in Longmont. We live in Boulder County, so we live in an expensive area in an expensive country. I could pull up roots here, just head off to Portugal or Ecuador or some other country, maybe somewhere in Southeast Asia, and live super frugal, probably for a quarter of what we do now, and sit things out. It wouldn't be my primary. It wouldn't be something that I might choose to do otherwise. I don't. Well, look forward to slow travel and living in other countries. Probably not for 2 or 5 years in a row, but I think that's a viable backup plan. And the same thing goes for health problems too. If you need open heart surgery or some kind of health problem, or some kind of you come down with some kind of health condition, there's other countries you can go to get healthcare for much cheaper. So that would be the backup plan for that kind of scenario too.
Yeah, so let me ask you a quick question on kind of what you mentioned. Is so if that doomsday scenario, again, stock market cut in half, all that stuff, would you go back to work?
If I had to, I would. I would not be happy about it, but I think the chances of that happening are so small right now. I would say less than 1%. I know the stock market's at a high, but I worked far too long, and we have way more savings now than we need. So I would go back to work. I would try to do it on my own terms, like maybe a contract basis where I don't have to do it full time, especially if I did computer work. There might be some kind of short-term contracts I could do. But yeah, I definitely would. I got to put food on the table and put clothes on the dinosaurs and all that. So
very important, very important. All right, so we went through the crazy, we went through the doomsday. I'll get off of I'll get off of that horse, or that dinosaur, probably better. But so your kids are how old right now?
They're 12 and 9.
Okay, 9, 12. So at least 9 more years until they would potentially stay at the house. Who knows what happens after 18, but a lot of kids will go to college or, move out. I read also that you were thinking about, and you mentioned here a little bit, living in different parts of the world. How would that work? Did you have any specific countries in mind? Any lengths of time?
Yeah, we haven't thought about it too much yet, but I think the fun way, going back to the whole slow travel thing, the thing to do would be to find a place, a rental, like a long-term rental in Portugal or maybe Ecuador, Costa Rica. There's so many parts of the world, corners of the world that I'd like to see, and just go live somewhere for 3 months and then maybe have a home base here in Colorado. We'd probably sell our current home and have something much smaller if we have anything at all. But just do the slow travel and find interesting corners of the world and go spend time there. I think of, I went to visit the mad scientist in Edinburgh, Scotland, and it was so pleasant because he was in the center of town. We stayed there for like 4 days. We never got in any motorized vehicle. We just walked around every day and explored the city on foot. And that was so satisfying, I guess is the right word for it. So to replicate that experience, to stay in major cities and just walk around and absorb it how a local would. But I've already come to grips with, what is there, like 220 countries in the world. There's no way I'm going to see everything I want to see before I croak. So I've already come to terms with that, but so many cool places to see. So slow travel, maybe 3 months at a time to interesting places, and
right.
Maybe try to do it frugal. The nice thing about being in this fire community is there's so many generous, nice people. So I would hope to leverage like home swapping and strategies like that to save money as well.
Yeah, essentially having one big couch surfing event.
Yeah. Do you have a spare couch, Steven? Or
No. Mm-mm. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course we do. Spare couch, spare bedroom, whatever you
can
need.
you? Oops, you broke up for a second. Can you repeat that if you just said something?
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, I was just saying. At first, I was giving you the finger wag. No, no, no. But no, we have a spare bedroom, spare couch. We've got a hammock in the back. Actually,
Whoa,
we got one in the front if you really want. Um, we're ready for you.
hammock surfing. Oh, whoa.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Um, but so one thing, so just to give people who aren't familiar with who I am, I recently started a business as a money coach, and one thing that I work with my clients to do is I talk about values a lot and what makes you happy. And one of the exercises that I go through with them is figuring out what their values are. And I wanted to ask you, this can be a difficult one, so I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. But really, what the top three things that make you happy. And I always give my example to help out a little bit. So one of the most important things in my life is my family or my wife specifically. So I want her happiness. And as well for me, it's travel. So spending time with my wife traveling, I'd like to say it's a big, beautiful world out there. I want to go see more of it. And as well, my health and fitness. So I'm more concerned about, again, just being healthy. I buy the organic lean beef instead of the $1.99 stuff that's on sale, just because my personal beliefs is that's going to be part of my health. Many different things out there. I was wondering what yours are. Again, you're on the spot, so one is fine, three is fantastic.
Oh man, I'm going to say like five because you gave me some answers, and the first one I'll say is one of yours. It's fitness and health because I'll back up a second. The first time I went to the Berkshire Hathaway conference, someone asked this guy, got up and said, "I'm 27 years old. What do I need to do to emulate your life?" And Warren Buffett said, "Well, that's a hard question to answer, but I want to let you know that I would do anything to trade bodies with you right now." I'm like, and that's pretty obvious. He's almost 90 years old. So of course you would want to be young. He's like, I would give up everything. You could have all my money to trade bodies with me. And if you think about that, what you come to is health is so important. If you don't have health, nothing else really matters. Who cares about all the money in the world if you don't have quality of life? So that's number one. That's the foundation of what your life should be built on. And fire allows you to do that too, because now I finally have time to work out. But on top of that, currently it's raising my children to be happy and well adjusted. Uh, but other things that make me happy are building things. And I'm so fortunate because I had a job that I enjoyed. I like to build code, but I also find that building things and like physical things helps me too. I just built a Murphy bed in my room, which is behind me there. I built planters in my
Very nice.
backyard. I'm working on this co-working space. So building is huge. And finally, maybe giving back, just helping people. I guess my favorite part of blogging is once in a while, this doesn't happen often, but once in a while I'll get some email. It says, "Hey, I read your stuff and it's caused me to reevaluate my life and pivot 180. So I was doing this,
Wow.
this, and this. And thanks to what you wrote, I've changed everything." And that's huge. So I think, and I haven't been able to do a whole lot of this so far, but just giving back in other ways, like volunteering for local organizations. And at the end of my life, when it's time to croak, giving my money away. I don't believe in inherited wealth. I haven't told my kids that. They probably won't be happy when when dad croaks and doesn't leave them his whatever money is left over. But yeah, just finding ways to give back and making a difference in the world. And I find doing that locally satisfying because you see the direct results of what you do. And I think in some way the co-working space does that for us. We let nonprofit groups host meetings there for free. And so we give back in that way now. And it's very nice to see that you're helping someone out. So, yeah.
I like those. Those are good, and those are pretty good on the spot answers as well. So kudos to you. You mentioned a lot. You really throughout was I heard you mention the word community, and a little bit even at the end with giving back. I see you from time to time, or in other groups or what have you, with meetups and presentations and what have you. Where can we find you in 2019, other than of course at your blog?
And like physically, where will I be in 2019?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's see here. I'll tell you all the travel plans I have so far. So in May, we're going to go to the Berkshire Hathaway conference, and I'm going to run a 5K there. They have a 5K every year, so if you want to run the Berkshire Hathaway 5K with me, come to Omaha in May.
You want to practice now?
Yeah. I'm trying to get my time down under 27 minutes. So I used to be in very poor shape. My first year was about 35 minutes. Last year I did it in 29:59. My goal is to be under 30 minutes, so I beat that by a second.
Nice.
So this year I'm trying to get under 27. So that's Omaha. In June, I'm going to go to the UK to speak at something called Chautauqua that JL Collins runs. Let's see.
Very nice.
What else am I going after that? Oh, in July, we're going to do Ragbri, which is a bike ride across Iowa, which, despite how it sounds, is actually a really fun thing. And I think we might hang out in your old stomping grounds before that, Wisconsin, maybe around
Oh, wow.
Madison. So I know that's where you're originally from. And we're going to go to a podcast movement in Orlando in August. So I've tried to scale back my travel. So that sounds like a whole lot of travel, though. I don't think I've been too successful in my scaling back.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to California in May too. Yeah, Yosemite. I don't know if anyone's heard, but the Sierra Nevadas have gotten record snow. So Yosemite is this beautiful place with one of the tallest waterfalls in the world. And it's going to be spectacular. So I highly recommend it. Yeah, my scaling back my travel has not worked out so well. So.
Aren't you, there was one, are you doing, because it wasn't it, what is it, Choose FI? Are you doing something with Choose FI too?
I think those guys might be coming to Longmont to do an interview, and maybe for the plane. They might be doing a tour for the Plane with Fire documentary, although I'm not sure that. I have no idea what's going on with that.
Oh, you know what I was referencing? I was thinking that there is what is it? The Choose FI, Camp FI. And I thought there was one in Colorado.
There's a Camp FI in Colorado right after the 4th of July. So yeah, we're going to that too. I guess I didn't think of that because that's so local, but yeah, I'm going to give a talk at that. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that all sounds pretty great. Well, I only have one more question for you, and I've been dying to know this.
Uh-oh.
What's with all the dinosaurs, man? What's going on? What's happening?
I don't know. Can you see me back of me? No, I can't see
the
camera. Okay, yeah, there's dinosaurs everywhere
the whole time.
Okay, yeah, a long time ago, the dinosaurs came like 250.
Right. Can you tell me the whole history of dinosaurs, please?
No, and that 65 million years ago, the asteroid came, and that was it for them. Yeah, as a joke, I put a couple of these. I had a couple childhood dinosaur toys that had escaped my mom's toy purge. I'm like, I'll put these on the blog as a joke. And out of all the things that resonated with people, out of all the goofy things I've done, that seemed to be number one. So I'm like, I'll just go with it. I gave him names, Frugalsaurus and Spinosaurus. And
those aren't their real names?
No, those are their stage names.
Okay.
Names. So, yeah, Dinosaur Bob and Charlie are their real names. First time ever I've said that. First time ever on Even Steven Money. So
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a joke that turned into a bigger joke, I guess.
I like it. I was again dying to know. I had to ask. That's everything that I had for you today, Mr. 1500 Days, Carl. I like to joke that whenever I see you or your wife, I let everyone know that I'm on Team Jensen.
I appreciate that. I hope to see you this year, Steven, maybe in Florida when we're in Orlando. I know that's not quite your neck of the woods or swamp in Florida, right? Maybe.
Yeah, probably a little more swamp. Hey, careful with those gators. Signs everywhere.
I went to Gatorland. I've seen them firsthand.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. You know what? I think I might have saw a picture. I stay away from that stuff. But again, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Taking the time out of your day. It's been a pleasure for me. I hope it's been the same for you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Steven. I hope to see you in Colorado, Orlando, Florida. I don't know, someplace. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Cheers.
Okay. See you, Steven.